Okay, now let's just talk about guest blogging for a minute. This is where you either invite guest bloggers to blog on your site, or you would write a blog post on another person's site. And this is terrific for widening your exposure. An example of a very successful guest blog that I just did was for Viv magazine. This is a print magazine actually that goes out to about 500,000 readers. It's targeted to women over 35. And they also have an online blog, and that's where I was asked to guest blog this article that you see here on screen. It was highly successful in that I gained more attention and 2 more clients from this article alone, because if you notice right here, this is what's known as a byline. And see this in red, my name here? That is a direct clickable link that goes right back to my own blog. So now, remember when you're guest blogging for others that they will have editorial control, just like you do when others are guest blogging for you. So they will reduce and change your content a little bit, they will edit things, but that often makes it tighter and better anyway. So really seek out opportunities to guest blog and to offer guest blogging opportunities to others.
So I want to address about the ability to take a blog and create a book. And probably the most famous success story of blogging is Julie and Julia. And I'm probably one of the few people who have read the blog, the book, and then seen the movie starring Meryl Streep playing Julia Child and Amy Adams playing the author Julia Powell. Now, Peg, who would you get to play you starring in your movie?
How about Catherine Zeta-Jones? What about you?
Yes, I can see that. For me, it would be Tina Fey all the way.
Of course.
Has to be comedy, laugh, laugh, laugh. Anyway, the Julie and Julia Project was the name of the blog. And that became the Julie and Julia, the book, pictured there, and then the movie. All 3 versions, the blog, the book, and the movie, are completely different experiences, actually. But it all started with the blog. And I think there are things we can learn from what Julie Powell, our author, did successfully in her writing and in her posting. So let's talk about those lessons. There are 4 lessons that I think we can learn from this success story. First, Julie Powell made her blog very personal. We saw her in her meltdowns as she went along, and she was not trying to be superhuman or a celebrity, and she was completely open and relatable, which built trust in her readership, and it was very endearing. So I want to give our writers permission to get vulnerable and get a little more personal in what they're putting out there, and I'm always telling my writers to do that.
Definitely. Then let's not forget, too, that Julie was very consistent. Readers knew that they were going to get a daily update. So we're not saying that everyone has to blog every day, not at all. We intend to tackle that question later, by the way. But consistency is definitely one of the keys to success.
Good point. Also, Powell had a really clear goal and purpose to go through Julia Child's famous cookbook within a year. And readers found her because of this clarity of her goal. In fact, her consistency and the focus on the subject is probably how people found her just by Googling. Remember, I said to write a mission statement for your blog. Remember that? Well, hers would have just been that simple. Try to write recipes every day from Julia Child's famous cookbook and share my tragedies and triumphs. Now, I want to talk about another little thing. Julie was a foodie. And as a foodie, they get lots of exposure on the internet already. But it's also a trend. But trends tend to come and go, whereas foodies, it's still on the internet. It will always be on the internet. It's a big subject. So identifying trends is one of the great things to look for, and we're going to go into that a little bit more as a place to find subjects.
Definitely.
Hot trending subjects.
One great way to explore trends is to use something called Google Trends, which we'll talk about later and show and explain to you.
An example I want to give you about using a trend is I knew a lawyer blog, and he was talking about employment law and described employees doing, public misdemeanors as pulling a Charlie Sheen, which was really the hot topic of that month, as we all remember. And of course, he was using it to make the points about employment law.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Uh,
That's brilliant. That was a trend, a short-term trend, but it was also what we talk about as link bait, which is another strategy we'll talk about later.
Good.
Good tips, Catherine.